In the twisting, heart-wrenching world of Days of Our Lives, where love stories crash against the rocks of DiMera villainy and every happy ending feels one sinister phone call away from disaster, we've reached what might be the most chilling chapter yet for two beloved Salemites Stephanie Johnson and Jeremy Horton. Fans have been holding their breath for weeks, wondering if this couple torn apart and thrown back together by fate, more times than we can count, would finally catch a break. But as the shadows lengthen over the DiMera mansion and doctor, Wilhelm Rolf's latest experiment hums in the background. One terrifying question echoes through the streets of Salem. Do you think anyone will ever find Stephanie and Jeremy again? Because what we're witnessing right now doesn't just feel like another kidnapping. It feels like the final devastating curtain call on their story. Let's rewind just enough to feel the full weight of what's happening, because in Days of Our Lives fashion, the past is never truly past. It's a loaded gun waiting to go off. Stephanie Johnson, the fiery, fiercely independent daughter of super spy Steve Patch Johnson and his rock-steady love Kayla, has always been a fighter. She survived everything from corporate sabotage at Titan to the emotional wreckage of her on-again, off-again romance with Alex Kyriakis. But Jeremy Horton, he's the kind of guy who sneaks into your heart and refuses to leave. A Horton through and through, grandson of the legendary Tom and Alice, nephew to the ever-scheming Jennifer and her endless family. Drama's Jeremy carries that classic Horton heart of gold wrapped in just enough rebel spirit to keep things interesting. Their love story has been a roller coaster, secret meetings, stolen kisses in the Brady pub, narrow escapes from danger, and yes, that unforgettable time they were whisked away to a next mysterious, fog-shrouded island owned by forces that still send chills down every fan's spine. We all remember that island, don't we? The one that felt like it was ripped straight out of a gothic novel, thick jungle, hidden labs, guards with no last names, and eyes that never blinked. Stephanie and Jeremy were taken there before, held as pawns in some DiMera power play that never fully made sense, until it was too late. They fought their way back once, clinging to each other through storms and secrets, promising that nothing could tear them apart again. But promises in Salem have an expiration date, and right now, that clock is ticking louder than ever. Cut to the present, where the nightmare has returned with a vengeance. Picture it, the dim glow of a single bulb swinging in some forgotten warehouse on the edge of Salem. The kind of place no one stumbles into unless they're meant to disappear. Stephanie's hands are bound, her usually perfectly styled hair matted against her forehead, her eyes blazing with that signature Johnson defiance, even as exhaustion tries to pull her under. Beside her, Jeremy strains against his own restraints, whispering her name like a prayer, promising her they'll get out, just like last time. Their captor, none other than the DiMera's mad scientist himself, Dr. Wilhelm Rolf. He's not some cartoon villain cackling in a lab coat. Rolf is cold precision wrapped in a German accent and decades of loyalty to the DiMera Empire. He found them. He always finds them. But here's the twist that has fans screaming at their screens. He didn't release them. He didn't even hesitate. Instead, he stood there in the flickering light, phone already pressed to his ear, dialing the one man who could turn this from a simple snatch and grab into something far more permanent. Mr. DiMera. Rolf's voice slithered through the line, calm as ever, like he was discussing the weather instead of two human lives. E.J. DiMera, once the golden boy turned ruthless heir, now fully embraced as the Dark Prince of Salem, answered from the opulent confines of the DiMera mansion. We can picture him perfectly tailored suit, glass of expensive scotch in hand, that trademark smirk playing on his lips even as his eyes stay ice cold. EJ has always been a master at compartmentalizing. Family only when it serves him. Love, a weakness he exploits in others. And research, that's sacred. The kind of research that keeps the DiMera name synonymous with power no matter how many bodies it costs. Rolf laid it out without flourish. He had Stephanie and Jeremy. They were secure. But the risks were mounting. These weren't random civilians. These were people with families, Johnson, Horton, Kyriakis connections that stretched across Salem like invisible tripwires. EJ's response was pure DiMera calculus. Our top priority remains uninterrupted, he said, voice low and deliberate. The research, whatever shadowy, ethically bankrupt project Rolf has been cooking up in that hidden lab beneath the mansion cannot stop. Not for lawsuits, not for police inquiries, not for the inevitable missing person posters that would soon plaster every coffee shop in town. Their disappearance cannot be traced back to us, EJ continued, each word measured like a scalpel. We've been careful. We stay careful. But Rolf, for all his loyalty, isn't blind. He's seen the way Stephanie's eyes locked onto his face during the struggle. He knows Jeremy memorized the route, the vehicle, the sound of Rolf's footsteps. They know where they are, Rolf warned, a rare hint of concern creeping into his clinical tone. They have seen me. They will talk if they are ever found. The silence that followed on EJ's end wasn't hesitation. It was calculation. The kind that has ended lives before in this town. And then came the order that sent a collective gasp through the days of our lives fandom. Then there is no choice, EJ stated flatly. We need to make sure that Miss Johnson and Mr. Horton are never found again. Never found again. Those 3 words hang in the air like a death sentence. Because in Salem never usually means a shallow grave, a body dumped in the river, or worse, shipped off to that same secret island where escape feels impossible and hope goes to die. We've seen it before. We've watched characters we loved vanish into the void only to claw their way back years later, changed and broken. But this time, it feels different. Stephanie and Jeremy aren't just pawns. They're collateral damage in EJ's relentless pursuit of whatever twisted legacy he's building. Rolf's experiments, rumored to involve everything from memory, alteration to creating the perfect, controllable soldier, demand absolute secrecy. And 2 nosy lovers who stumbled too close, their a liability that must be erased. As the scene fades to black on that warehouse floor, Stephanie's voice cracks through the silence. Jeremy, if we don't make it, but he cuts her off with a fierce whisper. We will. We always do. The camera lingers on their intertwined fingers, trembling but unbroken while outside. Rolf prepares whatever comes next. A boat, a plane, another one-way trip to that fog-choked island, where the waves swallow screams and the jungle hides evidence. Fans are already theorizing in every online forum will Steve Johnson ride, in on his motorcycle patch over one eye and gun in hand. Ready to tear the DiMera empire apart, will Kayla rally the hospital staff, turning every resource into a search grid? What about Maggie Horton, the matriarch who has buried too many loved ones? Will this be the loss that finally breaks her? And let's not forget the ripple effects across Salem. Alex Kyriakis, still carrying a torch for Stephanie even after their messy breakup, might finally grow a spine and demand answers from the DiMeras. Chad DiMera, caught between family loyalty and his own complicated past with Stephanie, could be the wild card. One leaked conversation, one moment of conscience, and the whole house of cards collapses. But EJ has always been 3 steps ahead. He's already planting false trails, a fake text from Stephanie's phone saying she and Jeremy needed space, a staged argument caught on security footage, whispers around town that the couple ran off for a romantic getaway. Classic DiMera misdirection, the kind that buys time while Rolf's team works in the shadows. We've been here before with the show, haven't we? Remember when Stefano himself pulled strings that made entire families question reality? Or when Kristen DiMera faked deaths and stole lives with a smile EJ learned from the best. But Stephanie and Jeremy represent something purer, something the DiMeras can never quite touch. Their love isn't built on power or revenge. It's built on survival and second chances. They've danced at the edge of the abyss and come back swinging. Will this time be different? Will Rolf's loyalty to science trump EJ's cold command? Or will we watch, helpless, as the island claims them once more? Their story reduced to grainy flashbacks and whatever happened to conversations in the Brady pub. The drama doesn't stop at the warehouse. Flash forward to the DiMera living room, where EJ pours himself another drink and stares at a framed photo of his own complicated family. Is there a flicker of doubt, a momentary pang for the lives he's about to destroy, or is this just another Tuesday in the Empire, Rolf? Returns later. Reports filed with clinical detachment subjects secured. Transport arranged for 0400 hours. The island awaits its labs already humming, restraints prepared. Secrets ready to swallow 2 more souls. We see quick cuts Stephanie's tear-streaked face as she realizes This isn't a game anymore. Jeremy's jaw set in determination even as the sedative takes hold. The roar of an engine cutting through the night. Salem wakes up the next morning none the wiser. Steve paces the pub phone in hand, calling every contact from his ISA days. Kayla buries her worry in work at the hospital, but her hands shake when she thinks no one's looking. The Hortons gather sharing stories of Jeremy as a boy, refusing to believe the worst, and somewhere in the background, the ever-present threat of the DiMera machine grinds on. Because that's what Days of Our Lives does best, it makes you care so deeply that every twist feels personal. Every never found again lands like a punch to the gut. Yet even in the darkest hour, hope flickers. Because Salem has a way of delivering miracles wrapped in explosions and last-minute confessions. Maybe a tracking device Steve planted years ago still pings. Maybe one of Rolf's assistants has a crisis of conscience. Maybe Stephanie and Jeremy's bond is stronger than any drug or island chain. We've seen couples defy death here, Bo and Hope, John and Marlena, Steve and Kayla themselves. Why not these two So Days fans? The question isn't just whether Stephanie and Jeremy will be found. It's how many lives will be shattered in the search. How much blood will stain the DiMera name just as Salem's style catches up. This doesn't have to be the ending of their story. It could be the beginning of the biggest reckoning this town has seen in years. But as Rolf's boat cuts through the waves and EJ raises his glass in, a silent toast to uninterrupted research. One thing is crystal clear, the clock is ticking. The stakes have never been higher. And we are glued to our screens, waiting for the next devastating reveal. Because in Days of Our Lives, no one stays gone forever unless the writers decide otherwise. And right now, EJ DiMera is writing the script. Hold on tight, Salem. This ride is far from over.